this is something that triggers me every time when people like ask me where I'm from and stuff, and then they just don't drop it. I'm like, but I'm from the Netherlands. And they're like, no, you're not. Where are you from? I'm like, okay, I'm from Indonesia. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, teach me some cool Indonesian stuff. I'm like, bro, I don't want to. Like, what?
Hello everyone and welcome back to the series. My name is Jason and today I'll be your host for this podcast, Jason in a Chatterbox, JAAC. A podcast where I learn about things in life from a series of discussion with my friends or domain expert and also to improve myself as a better conversationalist. In this episode, we will talk about a phenomenon that become more common with time caused by the emergence of globalization. One might encounter this without knowing it. So the phenomenon that I'm going to talk about now is where you cross path with someone in your life that are third culture individual or kids, those that grown up outside of their parents' culture or the culture of their original country of nationality. With that, right? In order to better understand how is life through the perspective of third culture individuals, today I'm accompanied by someone special. So this is possibly the first session recorded with the biggest time zone difference, and the person hails from the country of tulips. So please welcome Audrey Himantono. Thank you for coming, Audrey.
Hi, thank you for having me. So I'm Audrey.
How was your day? I think recently you are pretty busy, and I think if I'm not mistaken, this should be your last year of university, right?
Yeah, it was so hectic. I actually had my deadline for my dissertation due like today, so I just handed it in, pulled an all-nighter again, but pulled it off. So I should be graduating in a couple months. Once I get my marks
congratulations!
Back.
Only congratulations!
Thank you.
Do you mind if you share more about yourself? What is your background and everything?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Audrey. I was born in Surabaya in 1908, and like back then it was very, very like hectic then with the riots and stuff. So we decided to flee to the Netherlands because my dad knew some people here. He studied here, had some connections. So I've been living in the Netherlands ever since, and I moved to London for uni 4 years ago now. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, wow, means that I've been mistaken for the longest time. I thought that you born in Netherlands, but you born in Surabaya?
No. Yeah, because my parents actually studied here and then they went back to Indonesia to like just go back and live there. But then they decided against it once like everything started to get dangerous in 98.
Okay.
So yeah, they moved back and then moved back to the Netherlands again.
So do you had the chance to experience life in Surabaya then?
No, I was like 6 months old, I think.
Okay. So you barely have any consciousness about what is going on.
Yeah. Apparently, it was just super hectic. I was born in like a military hospital back then, and by the time we were able to leave, like I was 6 months old already. So yeah, already. Like it took 6 months to be able to leave the country. But yeah, that's not enough for me to remember anything.
No worries. So okay, now I'm at the same level understanding of what is your birthplace. So it means that almost of your whole lifespan growing up in Netherlands, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that your parents came from Indonesia. So the typical case for third culture kids or individual, they typically have many language comprehension. So either bilingual or trilingual. So as a couch for the viewers and audience, how many language can you comprehend?
Comprehend or speak?
everything that you know and understand.
Yeah, so I understand Indonesian for sure. I don't speak that well. I speak Dutch, English, French. German is quite similar to Dutch, so I can understand that as well. Yeah, that's it.
Then English, of course.
English, yeah.
And then how do you acquire, so there's the one that Indonesian language. How do you acquire Indonesian, your parents' original language, and then how do you acquire the European language? How is the progress looks like?
Yeah, actually it's quite common in Europe with people who have like an immigrant background to know three languages.
Mm.
Because you grow up with it. Your parents speak like your native language to you. Then you go to school and like your European language. Like I go to school, I speak Dutch to my friends. They teach us in Dutch, so I know two languages already. And then by the time we're like 10, we start learning English. So that's three
Mhm.
already, like without any effort really, because you don't have to like study for it.
How about your mother tongue? So I'll assume your mother tongue should be Indonesian or Bahasa. How do you pick Bahasa verbally? Or is it just from your understanding? Oh, they are talking about this, and how?
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure how I learned the different languages at the same time, but apparently, when I was little, I only spoke Indonesian to my parents, and my
Oh.
parents weren't aware that I could speak Dutch. So when she brought me to the kindergarten, she told the teacher like, "Hey, this is a list of like Indonesian words. If she needs to like do a poopy or like she's hungry, like
Mm.
this is what she'll say." And she picked me up the first day, and the teacher told her like, "Hey, she can speak Dutch, right?" She's like, "What? Really?" So yeah, apparently, like I don't know how they do it, but kids just know when to speak which language, I guess.
So it's the other way. So you pick Dutch unknowingly, unbeknownst to your parent.
Yeah,
Wow.
because they don't spoke Dutch to me, so
But do they speak Dutch?
they speak Dutch to other people, but not to each
Oh,
other.
okay. That's very interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Or because the topic that we are talking about is third culture life, third culture individuals.
Mhm.
Do you encounter such term beforehand? Or when is the first time you encounter those?
Yeah, actually, I encountered it like a couple of years ago already, and when I started reading up about it, I was like, "Whoa, whoa! I feel." Thank you for like uh, putting me somewhere in a box, because like, yeah, it can be very, very frustrating sometimes when you grow up and people always ask you like, "Hey, where are you from?" Like, "Yes, I'm from here. I'm not from here." Like, I don't know
Ex-
what to say. I panic.
exactly right. You are confused. Like, where are you from? I mean, you're
Yeah.
by your heritage. You are not from the place that you're growing up. But when it must be a complicated feeling for you.
Yeah, I think once I moved to the UK, though, something that I definitely felt was like in London at least, it doesn't really matter like what you look like. But here in the Netherlands, if I say like, "Hey, I'm Dutch," they're like, "No, but where are you really from?" Like, okay, that's kind of rude, but yeah.
Wait, sorry, it might be a little intrusive, but what what is your nationality by now? Is it Dutch or Indonesian?
Yeah, it's Dutch. I used to have dual nationality, but they don't allow it after
Mm.
you turn 18, so we let the Indonesian one expire.
You need to surrender one or the other, right?
Yeah,
Mhm. So yeah,
sadly.
so you mentioned when you're growing up. I don't know whether it's happened, but when you are growing up, you saw the other kids going around, then you saw, why do they a little different? Do you have this kind of lingering feeling? Why do I look different compared to the rest?
I never really like questioned why I'm different because like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, at some point I started noticing that like, people are different, but I noticed that like my culture at home is different from like how people behave at school as well. So like there's not really any questions because I know it's because like my parents are from a different country.
Mm-hmm.
Um so yeah. Yeah, I don't think there were any questions. Like I knew what the reason was, like they're Indonesian.
All right. And then growing as a third culture individuals, I must say you already have a head start compared to those that grown in their native country. For example, you have the multiple comprehension of language at least. So do you see other advantage of growing as third culture individual?
Mm, I'm not sure. I think what you learn from like being a third culture kid yourself is kind of like code switching. Like you adapt to
Mm,
your environment in ways that like suit your audience. So if you're hanging around like super, super, super Dutch people who love their cheese and everything, like yeah, like I go with the flow. I eat cheese with them.
Mm.
But then when I'm with like Asian friends, like I like to eat like dim sum or whatever. And yeah, I think growing up in like different cultures really teaches you to adapt to different people and
Mm.
accept like each other's differences.
So you have a much better adaptability to different culture you're going in.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm. Now, after we are talking about the advantage, right, we need to see the other side of the coin. So, what do you see might be a little discouraging or might be a little upsetting being a third culture individual?
Oh my God. I think like the most upsetting for sure, like this is something that triggers me every time when
What?
people like ask me where I'm from and stuff, and then they just don't drop it. I'm like, but I'm from the Netherlands. And they're like, no, you're not. Where are you from? I'm like, okay, I'm from Indonesia. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, teach you some cool Indonesian stuff. I'm like, bro, I don't want to. Like, what?
The crisis, right?
Yeah.
The identity, how is what the nationality or the identity crisis. Even for me, I'm not even a third culture kid. I'm just living abroad in Singapore for 7 years. I feel like,
Yeah.
bro, I mean, I'm from Indonesia, but I'm also living in Singapore for 1/3 of my life. Then we have you lingering around, or people like you who are grown from outside of their culture. Man, that must be, I don't know, man. How do you feel?
Yeah. I think like for me personally, I like it. I like living in different countries, but then the questions that you get, they're just like they're endless. And then people just like, I mean, sometimes I just panic as well. Like, do I say I'm Indonesian this time? And then it turns out they're like Indonesian or like from a neighboring country and they speak the language really well. I'm like, oh, jokes, I'm not Indonesian. Then it's kind of like embarrassing as well if I have to say like, oh, actually, I'm not Indonesian. I don't know why I just said that.
I think the easiest answer. Okay, I'm from Singapore, so they speak English, right?
Yeah.
We talk about the advantage, disadvantage, then with the different culture that you experience, you are born in Indonesia, growing up in Netherlands, then went to UK for your university. How does change the perspective of life with by experiencing of those different cultures?
Um, I don't know. I think it's like funny how, like Netherlands and UK, they're so close to each other, but so different.
Mm.
Like geographically, they're as close as like say Indonesia, like a couple Indonesian islands.
Mm.
But the difference between the culture of the people and like their humor, how they behave, how they deal with like social interactions is very, very
Mm-hmm.
different because the Dutch are generally quite like direct, and English people, they're kind of, yeah, like depending on the type of English people, you have like a lot of like people pleasers. Like they're
Mm.
super polite. They don't want to like step on anyone's toes, so they don't say anything. They just like
Mm.
go around the issue. Whereas like the Dutch people are very direct. So like when I first came to the UK, sometimes I would like just say what's on my mind, and people feel like, oh,
Oh,
oh, that's
wow.
mean. I'm like, oh, oops, I didn't mean for it to be mean. Like I'm just like saying,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's reality.
A bit true, didn't it? So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the different culture. So there what might be a culture that might not suit the others, then it's making you become more how do you say, more aware, more compassionate.
Yeah, it was a bit of like a culture shock when I first got here, but like after some time, like yeah, like I adapt. I don't like continue to be like super direct. Like
Mm.
if I know they can't handle it, like I won't be direct. So yeah.
I have a question in mind. So you see, you live in 4 different countries. Is it? Is it four? Indonesia, Netherlands, UK. I mean, if you consider France as part
Yeah.
of your
Mhm.
exchange, sure.
Mhm.
But out of these 4 countries, which one do you relate or associate the most, and why?
Ooh. Don't know, honestly. That's a good question. No one's asked me that before. Um, I don't know. I think obviously, I have a lot of like links to the Netherlands because I've lived here my whole life.
Mm.
But then, yeah, because I'm not white, like people will never see me as fully Dutch. So like I've kind of lost like that connection to the Netherlands when I started to live abroad because people just didn't accept that I was Dutch. So I was like, okay, well,
Oh yeah, that's true.
I guess I'm not Dutch. That's okay. So now I've been like trying to reconnect a bit more with my roots, like
Mm.
Indonesia. My Indonesian has gotten a bit better.
Oi.
uh, um, yeah, so I think it's a combination of like Dutch and Indonesian, but not like English at all.
Mm.
Like English people are very different.
So if you decide to distribute, is it exactly 50-50?
Mm, I think okay. No, if I can distribute with like percentages, then it's like
Sure.
10% English,
Okay.
and then it's 50% Dutch, and then how much do you guys have? 40%.
40% Indonesia.
Yeah, Indonesian. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So the UK culture seeping in to your life.
Yep. It's been like 4 years.
So after that, right? Because you went to university in UK, do you intend to stay there and live there for the long term?
Yeah. Yeah. So I got a grad job already. Yay. So I'm gonna
Congratulations.
stay in London. Yeah, I'm gonna stay in London for like a couple of years, I think. And then I'll see what I do after. But I don't think I want to stay there for a long time. Just like a couple of years. Maybe take a master somewhere else.
Mm.
A little bit. Yeah. Who knows?
Then you back to your roots, either Netherlands or Indonesia.
Yeah, I don't think I want to go back to Netherlands, so maybe Indonesia.
We'll see. We'll see. With all this mix of culture, do you happen to have a funny incidents? So outside maybe the mismatch of culture where you just speak directly, then the British people is like, hey, what kind of is this? Who is this woman? Or something else? Or
Think, yeah, I mean, it's not like very funny. It's a bit like awkward the story.
sure,
That
just share it.
I lived in halls for a while, and like in my second year of halls, I met this girl who said she was like Dutch and stuff. So it's like,
Mm,
oh, cool. And like back then, I was just in my second year of uni, and like I was going through it like with my identity crisis. Like it
mm.
was at its peak right then and there. So it's like, oh, cool. I'm Indonesian, and then like she lived like in the same hallway as me for like a whole year. And she only found out like 6 months after I met her that I'm from the Netherlands because like at some point I was like, okay, I'm too far down, like I can't tell her anymore. And then like someone outed me. So yeah, that was very awkward.
So for that particular period, she always thought that, oh, you are from Indonesia, came from Indonesia.
Yeah, because when I met her, I told her I'm from Indonesia, and then at some point I'm like, this, yeah, it's too late to correct her now. It's okay. And then every time I saw her, we just spoke in English until one day she found out I was Dutch, and she spoke to me in Dutch. She's like, "No, for real, you're Dutch." Like, what? How come? Like 6 months, we just like ignore that part. I'm like, oops.
As a third culture individuals, oh, because you are in the European studies, if I'm not mistaken, is that right?
Mhm.
Do
Yeah.
you think that growing as a third culture individuals have any effect to your interest in life? Let's say your European studies or something
Mm,
else.
I'm not sure. I think Yeah, I think because I grew up around like different cultures. It made me interested in like meeting people and like speaking to them about their culture as well.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm not sure if that's because of like my third culture background or like, yeah, I'm
Sure.
just interested in it because I know a lot of people who love to hear stories as well who aren't like third culture kids.
Hmm.
But yeah, I love to like know more about like different ethnicities. Like I love to just like go on TikTok, and like find out about like this like ethnicity in Russia,
Oh,
Yakuts, and like, oh wow, that's really cool. Like that's a cool culture. I love that. And like you never find out about it like without the internet. So I love to like read up on it. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, obviously ethnicity is like a big thing as well, because
right.
sometimes when I say I'm Indonesian, then people are still like, no, you're not Indonesian, like you look Chinese. I'm like, no, not this again. And then it just spirals. Sometimes it's like, I'm Dutch, no, you're not Dutch. Okay, I'm Indonesian. No, you're not Indonesian. What do you want from me?
I'm Chinese,
Yeah.
but you speak Dutch, so
Yeah, so like obviously I love to like learn more about like the different ethnic groups around the
Mhm.
world, and like how they don't have their own country.
Mhm. I did some research, right? And then apparently it's very interesting that some of the third culture kids actually their direction of or line of work is either become a diplomat or some medical degree. And then when I match this with your background, European studies, wait, this one this one is possibly is the outlet is eventually become a diplomat or something around that
Yeah.
area. Then afterwards, wait, then if I'm not mistaken as well, your sister in medical degree as well. Like, is this? I think this study is valid. So that's why I need
Yeah.
to check with you whether is it really your third culture background or is it your genuine interest. So
I think it might be both. Like
mm,
obviously my sister's a doctor, that's also like an Asian immigrant thing, not necessarily just third culture. Um but me, I think, yeah, I was just interested in like learning more about like different countries, and being a diplomat or like working in like a big organization gives you like a lot of mobility. And that's something that I was like going for, because I wanted to like explore the world a bit more.
mm-hmm,
And I think it's quite accurate in that like third culture kids often do that because they've like grown up in different countries, so they want to be able to like move around as well,
mm-hmm.
instead of just like staying put in one country. At
Then
least like the third culture kids that I met as well.
and then the impression that I have from hearing your sharing about your interest in ethnicity, wow, it feels like wow, it's something like you what is called the UNICEF or the UN where you want to unite peace and wow, means that oh you are trying to raise the tolerance between one culture and another and between ethnicity and different culture lah. So wow, that is very noble.
Hopefully, if I like get a job in there somewhere.
You will.
Yeah,
I believe in you.
yeah. I'm gonna sell my soul first, and then hopefully, hopefully that will give me like enough
Mm,
time to like get a job.
So, as you mentioned, the term of third culture kids and individual is quite a new term. It's only recently coined in like in the 2000s, right after you born, like basically. So before you born, I don't think there's a third culture kids term. So let's say you are trying to advise future third culture individuals or kids that are maybe going through their self identity crisis, or maybe it's not even third culture kids or someone who are outside of their comfort zone or their typical familiar zone. What do you think is the advice that you can give for these individuals?
Mm, I think my advice would be the haters. Like honestly, like people are gonna say like stuff to you all the time. They're gonna question you. They're gonna like invalidate you.
Mm,
Just like ignore them. Like they don't know. So just like, yeah, don't let them get to you. Because yeah, if you're like struggling with your own identity yourself already, and you have like people just adding onto it and just making it worse, like obviously
mm,
that's so nice. So like the haters, don't listen to them.
mm.
Deal with your own identity crisis yourself, which is fine. But yeah, don't listen to people.
Ignore the haters.
Yeah.
Just go with
It's
the
the motto
flow.
I live by.
A good motto indeed. Okay, so yeah, that's what all I have today. And let's say the viewers want to know where to find you, or are there particular charity or causes that you want to bring the awareness to the audience and viewers?
Yeah, so there is this like Instagram account that I follow. If you're in London, it's called Dear Asian Youth London. They bring awareness to like Asian issues in London, hate crimes, whatever, all that, bring awareness to it. If you're from the Netherlands, there's accounts as well called Broodje kaas met sambal, which is translated as bread with cheese and sambal, which also does the same but in the Netherlands, and they're really doing great work bringing the community together. So go give them a follow if you want.
Sure.
Yeah.
I will definitely. So viewers, and for you, if you want to know more about the causes that Audrey mentioned, I will put the link in the description later on. So yeah, that's all that I have, viewers, and thank you so much, Audrey, for coming and chit-chatting about your third culture life or third culture kids period. So viewers, if you want to, this episode will definitely be available in your typical streaming service, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And if you would like to listen to the video podcast, you can find us in the YouTube, Jason and a Chatterbox. Don't forget to subscribe and like. And if you don't mind, turn the notification bell button. Oh my god, this is such a sellout.
Ooh, like and subscribe, guys.
Exactly.
Go support Jason.
And yeah, that's all that I have for this episode. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye, and thank you, Audrey.
Thank you for having
Bye-bye.
me. Bye bye.